Welcome in, Bills fans, to the Bills Breakdown by Chat Sports. On today's episode, we are talking about something that is unfortunately very serious. This is not a lighthearted episode, nor is it meant to be taken lighthearted. This is very, very serious, heavy stuff that we have to talk about, but it's Bills related and it is real life. The Buffalo Bills got some bad news surrounding their first-round draft pick, Maxwell Hairston. Now, Adam Schefter was the first one on this story, at least today, and he lays it out there just for you to see. An Ohio woman has sued Buffalo Bills first-round draft pick Maxwell Hairston, accusing him of sexual assault in 2021 when they both attended the University of Kentucky. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. This has been out there for the last couple of months. Why on earth are we talking about it right now? Well, it has just been reported by the sports media that it has now hit. So I don't know the reason behind why it's now just circulating around the NFL world, if it has been at least, reported or documented since at least February or March. But this is why you subscribe. All Bills news, good, bad, and everything in between is covered right here on the channel. So I feel this, kind of is not an inappropriate ask, but we are trying to get to 5,000 subscribers. And like I said, every single bit of news covered here on the Buffalo Bills is always going to be found on this channel. So hit subscribe if you haven't already. Let me just start by saying this. These are very serious accusations. I don't want to call anyone out. I don't want to say that I know anything about the case or that I am an expert in this type of material, but I do know that these accusations are deleterious to not only a player and their team, but for the reputation of an individual going forward in his or her life. Now, ESPN, a writer for ESPN, came out documenting all of the details surrounding this case and this lawsuit. And just a content warning, this is very graphic, what you're about to read. So if you do not want to hear about this, make sure you skip forward later on in the video or click out and come back when you are in a better headspace to watch the video. It goes on. March, the lawsuit alleges Hairston went into a woman identified as by her last name as Hendryx room without being invited and followed into her room after she declined to hang out with him. After Hendryx expressed her non-interest in engaging in sexual intercourse with him several times, Hairston allegedly forcibly removed her pajama shorts and sexually assaulted her, according to the lawsuit. It then goes on to say that Dani Jaffe, a spokeswoman for the University of Kentucky and University Police, said she could not comment on the lawsuit, but that sexual assault allegations are thoroughly investigated and can involve police. Title 6, student conduct officials and other, Title 9, I apologize. Student conduct officials and other legal entities. If and when the charges are warranted, or if a student is found to have violated our Code of Student Conduct, such charges and disciplinary measures are filed and pursued aggressively to protect our students. So as I previously mentioned, the story has been looming for about 5 months. I've asked around here multiple times to a multitude of different Chat Sports guys here. One of them went to the University of Kentucky, and he said this is not anything new. This is something that has been in the media, and this lawsuit has been documented for quite some time now. So now my question becomes, and there is no vitriol in this statement or this question that I'm about to ask, why is it hitting the sports media world right now? That's a genuine question. I'm not saying that with any bit of sarcasm, nothing of the kind. I am genuinely curious as why it is now only being reported in July if this has been going on since February or March. And I don't believe for a second that NFL reporters were just sitting on this information and decided to come out forward with it now. Because as we know, guys like Adam Schefter, Jeremy Fowler, and the like, when they get breaking news, they report it immediately. They want to be the first ones on these sorts of cases, and all NFL cases, all NFL news. So I pray that this isn't true. I really do. I pray that this is not the case. Not only for Maxwell Hairston, but for the woman involved. All parties involved. I hope that there's a misunderstanding of some kind that we're not seeing. And I know the Buffalo Bills do their homework on the players that they draft and the players that they have in their locker room. And thank God we live in a country where you're innocent until proven guilty. I know that in the digital media world and in the social media age, everyone has an opinion that they all feel like is number one and should be listened to all the time. So it can be frustrating, especially when you see these types of stories come out and people are quick to jump the gun and say, yep, he or she did the thing that they're accused of. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. But now I have a question. I don't believe for a second the Bills didn't know about this. I believe they did. But do they know the severity of what it was? That becomes my question. Because now you have to look at it and say, if there are more details that were left out in our pre-draft process that are coming to light in this new lawsuit or in the lawsuit in general, then you have to decide, is this someone you want to have in your locker room? Again, all of this is alleged. I'm not saying anything has happened. I don't know the facts or the details of this case. I'm only reporting on what I have read. And look, the Bills have a decision to make now. They have to pursue this. They have to go forward and talk to their teammates. Talk to the teammates of Maxwell Hairston, especially the guys that he spends all the time with, the cornerbacks. Talk to Christian Benford. Talk to Taron Johnson. Discuss with a lawyer. Anything you can to find out the legitimacy of these claims and where the truth lies. Because this is clearly something that happened 4 years ago now, right? We're in the summer of 2025. This happened back in 2021. So this was a long time ago. And I do know that the Buffalo Bills were at least aware of this because they also issued a brief statement. And I'll get that for you here in just a second. Here's what the ESPN article went on to say about Brandon Beane's comments about the situation. A spokesperson for the Bills declined to comment, referring to general manager Brandon Beane's comments in April after the team selected Hairston with the 30th pick in the NFL draft. At the time, Beane said that the team fully investigated, end quote, an allegation of sexual assault from 2021, that Hairston was an impeccable kid, and it didn't seem to be anything there. So hopefully that's true. And with the most recent players that have been making major headlines, and we're not going to go into what these two individuals did because you guys know what they did. If you have been living under a rock, I suggest you go read an article. Tucker and Deshaun Watson both have had some serious allegations against them as well, albeit this sounds heavier in terms of, I don't want to say the, exact word, but you can guess where I'm going with this. But now it's time to let the police take it from here. The Bills can conduct their own sort of investigation internally if they want. And my thoughts and prayers go out to everyone involved in this case. I hope we find out what the truth is. And that's why we have a jury of our peers that will allow us our day in court. And that's just the country that we live in. So for Hairston's sake and for the young lady involved, I hope that there is, a common ground that is reached. I hope the truth is revealed, whatever that may be, because the last thing that we want is unanswered questions on both sides. And hopefully it gets resolved sooner rather than later. That's going to do it for us on today's episode of the Bills Breakdown by Chat Sports. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And as always, be cool.